Isn't it amazing how the people who claim to be against fascism are the ones who most reliably use fascistic tactics to silence their opposition? Hello world, and welcome to my channel, where I think out loud, talk about books, and even, on occasion, stir the pot. In today's video, I would like to discuss the recent controversy surrounding self-made billionaire fantasy author JK Rowling and the remarks that she's made about the transgender community, which have proven to be, for her, nothing short of calamitous. I would also like to talk about something that is even more terrifying for all of us that we need to start working to prevent now. Before we begin, if you enjoy watching me set my author career on fire, I would be honored if you would like this video, share it, subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell. By the way, despite the fact that YouTube has gotten rid of the dislike button for some reason, if you feel the need to dissent, I have pinned a comment below that says simply dislike. Feel free to express your dissent by liking this comment because, quite frankly, you deserve the right to disagree with me, even if I don't like it. Anyway, what did JK Rowling say that caused such an upset? This time. To understand the current controversy going on regarding JK Rowling's tweets, it helps to go back a few years. If you're already familiar with JK Rowling's history of tweets regarding the transgender community, please feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp displayed on your screen now. The troubles all began when JK Rowling retweeted an op-ed piece which used the term people who menstruate as opposed to women. And JK Rowling took issue with this and tweeted the following. People who menstruate. I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Wumben? Wimpund? Wumud? Which, you are right to observe, made Twitter explode. Rather than apologize to the mob, JK Rowling decided to explain herself further. Quote, if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. The idea that women, like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is a nonsense. Unquote. She continued, I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it's hateful to say so. Unquote. A short while later, Rowling took to her website and posted an article entitled JK Rowling writes about her reasons for speaking out on sex and gender issues, and promoted it by tweeting out, TERF Wars! Sound like anybody you know? Don't answer that. In the interest of time, I will not be reciting the whole blog post here, but if you would like to read it, and I suggest you do, I have provided a link in the description below. The backlash that JK Rowling received after making these statements was profound. Movie stars whom she had single-handedly catapulted to success, such as Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, and who else? Bonnie Wright, and others. They immediately issued statements disagreeing with JK Rowling, renouncing her views, and of course reaffirming their solidarity with the transgender movement, or I should say, this particular strain of the transgender movement. Even Warner Brothers, perhaps unsurprisingly, issued one of those obligatory corporate puss-out statements, as I like to call them, reaffirming their devotion to the principles of diversity, inclusivity, and equity. You know, die. And Stephen King, someone whom JK Rowling had given great thanks to on Twitter for his defense, issued a tweet saying trans women are women. JK Rowling's heartfelt tweet thanking him for his defense has since been deleted. But the drama did not stop there, did it? People started manufacturing fake tweets by JK Rowling, supposedly, spreading them all over social media, doing their damnedest to make her appear as transphobic as they possibly could. They issued death threats against her, against her family, threats of rape, violence, and everything else you can imagine. And it only intensified when she dared to question the safety and morality of administering hormones and surgery to minors who had questions about their gender identity. Her book, Troubled Blood, added more fuel to this fire, because this book follows a killer who disguises himself as a woman in order to kill other women. This is when the hashtag RIP JK Rowling started trending. Despite Rowling's detractors, there are some who were brave enough to face the wrath of Twitter to defend her. Robbie Coltrane, the actor who played Hagrid, told the Radio Times, quote, "I don't think what she said was offensive, really. I don't know why, but there's a whole Twitter generation of people who hang around waiting to be offended. They wouldn't have won the war, would they? That's me talking like a grumpy old man. But you just think, oh, get over yourself, wise up, stand up straight, and carry on. I don't want to get involved in all of that because of all the hate mail and shit, which I don't need at my time of life." Unquote. Comedian Eddie Izzard also came to JK Rowling's defense. He said, quote, "I don't think JK Rowling is transphobic. I think we need to look at the things she has written about in her blog. Women have been through such hell over history. Trans people have been invisible too. I hate the idea we are fighting between ourselves, but it's not going to be sorted with the wave of a wand. I don't have all the answers. If people disagree with me, fine, but why are we going through hell on this?" Unquote. And as if that wasn't enough, comedian Dave Chappelle has come out in defense of JK Rowling as well, saying, quote, "They canceled JK Rowling. My God. Effectually, she said gender was a fact. The trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a TERF. I'm Team TERF. Gender is a fact." Unquote. In spite of these counter-arguments, JK Rowling regularly receives death threats. On July 19th, 2021, JK Rowling tweeted, quote, "Hundreds of trans activists have threatened to beat, rape, assassinate, and bomb me. I've realized that this movement poses no risk to women whatsoever." Unquote. Which finally, at last, brings us to our present day in November 2021. JK Rowling was not extended an invitation to attend the 20th anniversary of HBO Max's reunion special titled Harry Potter 20th Anniversary Return to Hogwarts, which will be made available on New Year's of 2022. Perhaps more concerningly, however, JK Rowling was doxxed by activists who positioned themselves right outside her house and took a picture so that her address was clearly visible. Isn't it amazing how the people who claim to be against fascism are the ones who most reliably use fascistic tactics to silence their opposition? If you threaten to harm someone because they don't share your political opinion, you are a coward. If you threaten to ruin someone's career, or their family, or their life because they have a difference of political persuasion than you, you are living down to the lowest expectation that I could possibly have of humanity. It's time to stop and reconsider what you actually believe in. Do you believe in liberty? Do you believe in freedom? Do you even believe in, I don't know, letting people have a personal sense of well-being? These sorts of fear tactics may work on some people, but they will not work on me. And I'm so thankful that they also will not work on people who are far more important and influential than I am, such as JK Rowling. She doesn't need your money. She can just fucking tell you like it is. And she can say, no, you know what? You're under the spell of a mass delusion right now. You're in the grips of a moral panic. We need people like her to speak out against this mass hysteria that's currently gripping our culture. And quite frankly, we need people like you too. This can't be the chore of people who are fortunate enough to have enough resources to fight back. We all need to take a stand against fascism wherever it crops up. It's very easy to try to pawn off that responsibility, to say, oh, I would speak out, but I have children. Oh, I would speak out, but I have a career. Oh, I would speak out, but that would compromise my choices of university. Oh, I would speak out, but my friends. Oh, I would speak out, but whatever. That's what everyone said when the Soviet Union took over Russia and the Caucasus. I have never stood in a breadline myself, but half of my family has, because half of my family is from Eastern Europe and knows what it's like to live under socialist rule. And they were the lucky ones. I do deeply worry for the future of America because I don't think that like when I look on Twitter or when I look on YouTube or when I just examine social media, I see how easily Americans cast their rights aside. And what infuriates me more, almost, in many ways, is that people seem to actually be afraid of some random person on the internet hitting the dislike button. We are so lucky that we are arguing over pronouns. We are so lucky that we're concerned about, oh, how do I want to express myself today? Do I feel like a he? Do I feel like a she? Do I feel like, I don't know, some made up word? Like, do you have any idea how lucky you are that that is the thing that you're worried about today? Seriously, just take a moment. It's the day before Thanksgiving, okay? So let's just take a moment to just take stock of all the things that we have to be thankful for. Because, dear God, like, if that's what you're worried about, okay? Whether or not someone called you the right pronoun on fucking social media, then you are arguably the most privileged person who has ever lived. When I see people like JK Rowling being attacked for expressing a biological fact, for acknowledging the fact that Homo sapiens are a sexually dimorphic species, that there's a such thing as a male and a female, that gender and sex are in fact very closely correlated, and they're not just entirely dependent upon socialization. It just blows my mind that this could even create such an uproar. It's difficult for me to imagine being so wrapped up in my gender identity that I would feel the need to threaten someone else's life. There is so much that we have to be grateful for. We have food to eat. You're watching this video on a smartphone or a computer, like chances are you're sitting in a temperature-controlled room or vehicle, which is why it both pains me and infuriates me to see that there are those among us who think that not only is America a terrible place, but it's one of the worst examples of oppression and corruption that the world has ever seen. Seriously, try living somewhere else, okay? Try expressing your gender identity in Afghanistan. It would almost be funny, except our enemies overseas are more than willing to take advantage of our mass delusions right now. Think back for a moment to the death of George Floyd. At this time, on Twitter, the hashtag white strike started trending. Now, no white people were actually striking from their jobs during this time. This was a Russian propaganda campaign meant to capitalize on the racial tensions that were inflamed in the United States just before the election. I think it's important that people become aware that the tensions in the US right now surrounding race, gender, and everything else are absolutely going to be used against us by our enemies overseas. Russia knows where our pressure points are, and so does China. And when we continually divide and bifurcate into more and more special interest groups and find more and more reasons to hate each other and to turn on each other, we are playing directly into our enemies' hands. I would encourage all of us to be a bit more loving toward each other, to not be so quick to issue death threats to authors for not holding exactly the same political opinion as us. I truly hope that we can arrive at a place where we aren't all so filled with outrage. And yet here I am, also outraged, begging you to listen to me. But what else can I do? What else can I do? Where conversation stops, violence begins, in the words of Sam Harris. I think the best thing we can do is learn how to talk to each other better. I think if we can all learn to just slow down, take a breath, and try to understand each other a little bit more, to be a little bit less quick to judge each other harshly, if we can help it, I think the world would be a better place. I realize I'm not saying anything particularly original, but sometimes wisdom isn't always the most unique combination of words. As offensive as many of you may have found JK Rowling's opinions to be, I implore you to please take a moment to really consider why her words actually offend you. I do think that we all need to at least acknowledge that biologically there are differences between men and women, and women do require some special protections under the law from men in situations such as restrooms and spas and anywhere else. We do not live in a perfect world where everyone is a good person. There are evil people out there who will take advantage of certain laws and loopholes within the laws in order to commit their evil acts. This is not the fault of trans people. It's just a reality that we all have to live with. And when I hear JK Rowling express concerns over children being able to choose whether or not to get hormone therapy or surgery. I share those concerns. And I think that any responsible person should share those concerns, and I think that most people do. They're just afraid to say it. I mean, if we wouldn't allow a child to get a tattoo, why on earth would we allow them to choose to undergo hormone therapy, which may irreversibly damage their fertility later? There are so many incongruities within this philosophy that I simply can't help but notice. And I won't be told that I'm a bad person for happening to notice them. I sincerely believe that in several decades, we may look back on this spat of human history and say, wow, what the hell were we thinking? Why on earth were we letting 6-year-olds decide to get life-altering therapies and medical treatments? And by the way, the activists who are threatening JK Rowling with death and rape and everything else, these are not all trans activists. I'm sure that you know this, but not all trans people hold exactly the same opinions. You can't just look at one person from a group and say, oh, I know what group you belong to, therefore I know everything about you and everything about your opinion. No, you don't. There are many trans people who do not agree with this radical fringe group of trans activists who have somehow grabbed the microphone and are just speaking for all trans people. There are many different opinions within the trans community regarding these issues, but these voices are being silenced. Why is it that certain trans voices are being allowed to be silenced while others are being elevated as the epitome of moral rectitude and we just have to follow them or else we deserve to die? There are many trans people who completely disagree with the fringe activists who are pursuing JK Rowling right now. But for some reason, their voices just aren't worth listening to. I would love to know your thoughts on this, even if you disagree with me. You're welcome to call me a hateful bigot if that's what you believe I am. And please, hit that dislike button. I realize that you can't anymore, which is bullshit, but hit the like button on the dislike comment, which I pinned to the top of this video. And feel free to ream me out. Let me know your thoughts. Why am I wrong? Is JK Rowling advocating hatred for trans people by stating the simple biological fact that human beings are a sexually dimorphic species, just like every other mammalian species to exist? Is it transphobic to postulate that gender and sex are in fact correlated and that there's quite a bit of evidence to suggest this? We have much to be thankful for. And I'm thankful for the fact that you made it to this point in this video, quite frankly. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for not doxing me and sending me death threats, if you're kind enough to not do that. I will see you in my next video. Much love, much respect. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos whenever I want, about whatever I want, really. What would you like me to talk about? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you.